This video, I want to talk about Excel visualization. I want to visualize some reports from my dataset. I have a dataset including information about groceries. In the groceries information, we have three columns: member number, date, and item description. It shows which member purchased which product on which date. And first of all, before visualization, I should correct some issues if I have my data set. I should make sure that the data type are correct. Let's see what each the data type is. For example, for member number is general. I convert it to number. We don't have any decimal places. For date, this date is not in the correct format. For item description, this should be text. So I select text from item from the cell properties. So to convert this column to actual date and the correct date time, I create another column named date corrected, and I converted this text to date. To do that, I use a date function, and here I say that convert this value to date value, but it gets three parameters: year, month, and year. And day, for year, I know that this is a string, and I should get a substring of this string, and the last four character of this cell is year. To get that data, I use mid function. Mid gets substring of a text, select the text that I want, and I specify the start character, which here is 7, and the number of characters that I should go forward 4. And I do the same for month. Again, I select B2, and then the start for this is 4, and I get 2 characters. For day, I do the same. Again, B2 is my cell, and here I start from 1, and I want to get 2 characters. And as you can see, now we have a date format of this cell, right? Using this formula that I wrote in this cell. I copy paste this formula, and I do the same for all the cells of this column. I paste the formula for all of them, and then I have the value in date, time, or date format. Okay, I have the date, item description, and member number. I should create a pivot table to get a report from this sheet. I select all these 4 columns, or the columns that I want. For example, member number, date corrected, and item description. It doesn't matter. From the insert, I select pivot table. I select the table or range that I want, and I select the sheet that I want to import my report. So it creates a new sheet. I call it a report. Now I can create a report based on the data that I have. On the right side, I have filters, columns, values, and rows. I can drag and drop to the fields to rows to group by the records. I can use a value section to use aggregation functions, and I can add columns in column section. I can use filters to filter some data or apply some where condition to my data. For now, I want to know what is the total number of item purchased per day. To do that, I should drag and drop item description to count, and because the item description is nominal, it automatically recognizes the aggregation function, which is count. But if I want to change the type of the aggregation function, I can right click on the field, and from the field setting I can change the function to sum, average, and max on something else. So for here, because we have a date corrected field, I drag and drop fields here because the date is an the date corrected is in date format. It recognizes quarters, years, and I can see here on the left side what's the aggregation number per quarter. If I don't want to see this categorization from the field setting, I can click on the group selection, and I can click on ungroup, and now I can see the date in date time format, because my report is based on date, and I have a number for each date. I can use a line graph to visualize data. From insert, I select line categories, and from 2D line I can select, for example, a stacked line or a simply line graph, and to visualize the data. As soon as I select that, I can see that here we have an order of the date purchased by product, and when I a little bit focus on the line graph, I can see I have a title here which I can change. The date is in corrected order, and in y-axis we have count, and I can, for example, remove the legend because we don't need any legend here, and from the right click on the graph, I can change the graph to something else, to another graph, for example, or I can change it to line with marker, or change it to a stack line graph. Apart from that, I can format plot area, for example, on the right side, fill the background, for example, change the borders, and for example, work on the shadows. I can use this palette to, for example, apply some 3D formats and some other things that you can do on the graph. And you have some text option for labeling of axes as well. Another report that we can create it is items with the highest number of purchase by members. To do that, I can drag item description to rows, and the left side you can see the count of the item description. I applied a filter here. If I remove the filter, then you can see the large number of items we have, 170 items we have, but I wanted to show limited number of items. Here we can select by value only limited, for example, greater than something. I selected 400. If I change it to 500, I can see even the limited number of the items. Okay, if I want to visualize this one, I can select insert for visualization of this value. Two columns that we have for each item, we have a number. It's better to use a bar chart. From a bar chart, I select bar chart, and here automatically creates the bar chart for you. On the x-axis we have the item name, and on the y-axis we have total number of product, and it's ascending in the descending order. As you can see, the whole milk is the item with the highest number of purchased over different time. I can add labels here to see that that number for each item, and we can again, like the line graph that I mentioned, you can change the format of this graph. On the right side, format plot area, you can change different things, numbers, transparency, colors, and some other setting. On top in the toolbar we have design, and we have format. In the design we can change the design, for example, to different formats. At the same time we can change the colors, for example, or we have a quick layout that we can show legends, for example, or number at the same time at the bottom of the chart. Let me go back to the other layout that we can have the legend on the right side, because we have only one group here. We don't need to have legends. And you have a format here, for example. You can change the format of the axis and the text that we have. For example, if I want to change it to blue, I can do that, change the font, and some other things that you can do here. So this was another example of creating graph based on pivot table in Excel.